Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It is Tuesday, January 13th, 3:28 p.m. And unfortunately, it's one of those my old hometowns doing embarrassing shit again. So we're going to talk about the city of Philadelphia and the fact that the sheriff, who we'll talk about, and the DA, who we'll also talk about, drawn a line in the sand for the federal agencies, especially ICE, that they're going to mess them up real bad if they come back into the city. And the big issue with this stuff and with this tough talk, and I think we've discussed this already in the last couple of days, they themselves are bringing about an issue that makes the city liable for damages in a lot of these situations. And thank God that it's finally going to happen because it's too long that politicians have gotten away with the bullshit that they're doing right now. So let's talk about what's happening in Philadelphia, and it's bigger than immigration or protests or cable news or trashing Chestnut Street to the point where we lost businesses that haven't come back since the freaking riots. It's the new political game around the federal law enforcement, particularly ICE. And it's getting people hurt countrywide. It's confusing the police, and it's turning ordinary civilians into expendable props in a political drama that nobody voted for. So in recent days, Philadelphia Sheriff Rochelle Bilal, you'll know her when you hear her open her fucking mouth, and District Attorney Larry Krasner, also same type, have been making headlines by threatening to arrest ICE officers. And here's the part the media skips. Neither of them can actually do it. So when you go on television and you see this, neither of them can actually do it. They know it. The federal government knows it. Every serious lawyer knows it. But it isn't about legality. It's about the optics. It's about the signaling. It's about the power. It's about the bullshit of the politics of Philadelphia. To the activist base, the message is clear. ICE is illegitimate. Federal immigration enforcement is immoral. And interfering with federal officers is now a form of resistance. And once you define resistance as righteous, you've just rebranded obstruction of federal law as a civil rights hobby. Okay, this is where sanctuary politics have evolved. A decade ago, sanctuary meant don't help with deportations. The new version means stage confrontations with the federal government and profit politically off the imagery. It's soft nullification. It's slow motion defiance dressed up as human rights protection. And it's not done through lawsuits or legislation. It's done through the use of civilians. The politicians reap the symbolic rewards. The activists get the glory. The media gets the content. And the people in the street have to suck it up and absorb the risk, right? So this creates a new figure in our political ecosystem nationwide and also in the city of Philadelphia. It's not the protester, but the civil combatant. All those wannabe thug Red Army son of a guns over there at the Wooden Shoe and the ones that ruined the Occupy movement in Philadelphia. That person who believes of blocking a prisoner transport van or swarming an arrest scene is just as legitimate as marching or chanting has some serious problems. Philadelphia has been producing these people for years now. We have how many colleges, right? How many art schools? We are loaded to the gills with potential lemmings for this machine. And we have been producing them. Live streamers, college radicals, trust fund revolutionaries. That's you, University of Pennsylvania. And psychological fragile individuals whose politics give them a sense of destiny they wouldn't otherwise have. The problem is that police and federal agents don't operate in symbolic space. They operate in physical space. They operate under law. They operate under risk. And when civilians start acting like combatants in a legal environment, they don't understand because they don't. Someone eventually gets hurt or shot or dragged into federal court. But Philadelphia adds an interesting twist because we're Philadelphia. Rocky Balboa, right? Pretzels, bullshit, Geno's Pats, who cares? Sheriff Bilal doesn't command the police. She talks a lot of shit about arresting a lot of people, but she is involved with the jails and the court and prisoner transport and administrative functions. She's an elected official, as far as I remember. God knows who elected her. But same thing. Krasner doesn't control federal law. He handles prosecutions inside of one county, and he's never really tried many cases on his own. But he is talking all this nonsense as well. Neither of them has operational command over the city's patrol forces. So who gets dragged in when protesters interfere with ICE, right? Your favorite, the Philadelphia Police Department. Okay, so PPD is the institution that has to physically break up the crowd, separate the bodies, deploy the force, restore order. And when things go bad, which is the lawsuits, the civil rights complaints, the federal reviews, social media outrage, blah, 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 PPD is the institution that's going to have to eat that shit sandwich. In this political ecosystem, everybody gets what they want except the people doing the actual law enforcement work. You can see where I'm going from with this? Now, the part that nobody's talking about with Krasner and Bilal are not just eccentric local officials. They are playing a power game. Krasner isn't merely a district attorney because he is just so bad at it, right? He's the flagship prosecutor for the progressive left East Coast faction, right? Donor backed, media amplified, and nationally connected. His base isn't working class Philadelphia, getting carjacked at a gas station, walking over dope fiends in Kensington, or whatever, illegal catfish farms up in the Northeast, wherever, whoever those people are. His base is the activist class, the university class, the MSNBC, you know, to them, confrontation with federal law enforcement isn't chaos. It's resume material. What did you do over the weekend, Thurstington? Oh, I went out and fucked around with a bunch of cops. Did you get killed? Nah, not yet. There's always a first time, right? So Bilal is running a smaller office, but she's playing the same game. She can't deliver law enforcement or law and order, or even a good sandwich, from what I understand, or reductions in violent crime. The sheriff's office in Philadelphia does not control that. But she can run that mouth. She can deliver activism. She can do identity politics and symbolic confrontation because when she runs for office again, she's going to need some extra money for when she loses so she can go on the drop and get the hell out of everybody's face. That gives her relevance inside of this progressive coalition. This explains the weird rhetorical contradictions. Bilal claims in her documentation that she worked at HIDTA. HID is in David, TA. Look it up. Narcotics Task Force that literally depends on the cooperation of federal agencies like the DEA, FBI, ATF, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. And probably ICE is in there once in a while because Homeland's in there once in a while. HIDTA is a federal integration by definition. If she was really the person who was on that unit and made those interactions with those people, she knows law enforcement at the federal level isn't fake or made up, which she says in their stupid little commercials, right? So either she forgot what HIDTA was, or she never really worked those cases in a capacity she later portrays. You tell me. I'm not saying anything, but it'd be a little odd, right? It's a short distance from there to the training facility, which is not the Philadelphia Police Academy, by the way. It's a training facility. So we'll worry about that in another story. Either way, her rhetoric is a political weapon, not an honest observation. And Krasner isn't confused either. He's handing out defendants to federal prosecutors, right? When it suits him. His only, how could I say it? He only pretends federal law is illegitimate when it benefits his brand and donor ecosystem. Because God knows he can't win a trial on his own. He'd much rather send them over to the feds. But they're not a legitimate force when it's something that's going to benefit him come election time as well, right? So once you view this as what we call realpolitik, not incompetence, everything starts to click into place. Okay. The activists get martyrs, the politicians get headlines, the national left gets content, ICE gets demonized, which they seem to be fine with. The city gets instability and the police get liability. And that's what bothers me. The capital L liability. Now let's talk about how this plays out on the ground because anyone in law enforcement, federal, state, or municipal, you can send me something and correct us, and we will respond. Everybody knows the difference between rhetoric and operations are where the bill always comes due. When a politician declares war on ICE or threatens to arrest federal agents or calls federal authority fake, they don't have to operationalize that declaration. They don't have to send patrol into a stacked crowd. They themselves are not going to handle any kind of conflict or de-escalation or whatever. They don't manage prisoner movement. They don't brief AUSAs. Look it up. They don't stand in front of a camera after an OIS. You can also look that up. Don't get sued. They don't get sued. They don't sit for depositions. They don't carry the liability. They don't go up for involuntary manslaughter. They don't go up for murder too. They don't go up for all that shit, right? They don't lose their pension. They don't have any of those things happen. Who does that happen to? Cops, federal agents, and the supervisors. Okay. And what every Philly cop should already understand, nobody in City Hall is going to back them if something goes sideways. Not with Krasner sitting as the DA. If PPD ends up pulling protesters off of an ICE operation and someone gets hurt, the same politicians who encourage the confrontation will suddenly develop amnesia and go out of their way to hang that racist cop or whatever his problem was. And he's going to have to go do 1,000 years in jail, civil rights violation, which would actually be federal, but they don't remember that. And it's even worse for the feds. Okay. ICE doesn't have a Krasner. They have internal affairs, OIG, the U.S. attorney, real accountability. You can't just say, we hung out at the AOH together, had a couple drinks, Seamus, and got us out of trouble. No. In HIDTA or joint drug cases, locals and feds have to treat each other as force multipliers. In sanctuary theatrics, they get turned into props. It's an inversion of the normal interagency relationship. And if you want to talk again, which I believe to talk about, is the liability for a second, because anyone who's ever been in a post-incident review or has witnessed a post-incident review or had to go through the documents, whatever, knows how ugly these things get. Sanctuary rhetoric pushes activists towards interference. Interference forces cops to use force. Use of force triggers lawsuits. Lawsuits trigger discovery. Discovery triggers media outrage, and the outrage triggers political disavowal from the same people who manufactured the confrontation. That is a liability sandwich. The top bun, activist permission. The bottom bun, political disavowal. And the meat in the middle is the cop who had to go hands-on with some idiot who thinks they're somehow some social justice warrior. And here's the crazy part. Personal injury lawyers haven't figured out that the cop isn't the biggest target. See, down here where I live now, we have personal injury lawyers coming out of our ears, and they're some of the biggest in the country, right? The city is the target. Every union rep should know this. Every municipal prosecutor knows it. Every federal agent knows it. In Philadelphia, the deepest pockets are not that guy in the patrol car. They sit in the treasury. Plaintiffs' attorneys don't chase justice, they chase settlements. And Philadelphia writes settlements like it's a hobby. If somebody gets hurt blocking an ICE van, the cops don't pay the bill, the taxpayers do. The activists create the injury, the politicians create the conditions, and the city cuts a check. It's the perfect liability ecosystem. And for some reason, everyone keeps pretending the chain of responsibility ends with the officer. It ends at the budget. And the more of you lawyers out there that start remembering that in these cases, the quicker this shit will end up being done with. And that's the part that should terrify people, not because of what it means for the cops, but because of what it means for governance. If politicians can create confrontations, deny accountability, and offload the cost onto the public, they have zero incentive to stop doing the shit that they're doing. So if officials want to fight ICE or challenge federal law, fine. Fight that fight in Congress or federal court, but don't outsource the confrontation to the civilians and the police of your community. Don't turn confused activists into expendable body armor in somebody else's political campaign. Don't pretend there's no blood on your hands, especially as you've seen in Milwaukee, when people get hurt doing what you silently encourage them to do. Because at the end of the day, city government is supposed to protect its citizens, not sacrifice them for theater. So that's where we are now. Philadelphia, get yourselves together. Next election cycle, get rid of that DA, get rid of that sheriff, get rid of that mayor. Try to get somebody in office that actually gives a shit about the city of Philadelphia. We are an untapped source of wealth for the state of Pennsylvania if we would just get off of our back for 15 minutes. It's true. Everybody can tell you that. We need to just do a certain amount of things and we can get out of this whole quest for fire fucking tribal bullshit that we've been doing since God knows when. So that's about it. Have a good day. And any questions, comments, etc., you can get a hold of us. If any of you are from one of the organizations that I used to know, you can go suck a dick. And that's about it for today. Goodbye.